Michael Jordan was certain that 7 cigars helped him win 6 championships, and every single one of them was illegal in America. He had never smoked a thing in his life before all of this began. Then something convinced him these 7 cigars were not just a habit, but the difference between winning and losing. He smoked one before every game and never once doubted it. And before this is over, you will know all 7, and exactly what convinced him. Hoyo de Monterrey Double Corona. Michael Jordan had never touched tobacco in his life until the night he won his first championship and Jerry Reinsdorf, the man who owned the Bulls, handed him a cigar in the locker room. The drive to home games was 90 minutes of Chicago traffic, and by the time he parked, the best player alive was wound tight and on edge. And the Hoyo Double Corona was built for exactly that. It is one of the mildest, creamiest Cubans ever rolled. All vanilla and honey and a long, slow burn that never bites back. A stronger cigar would have hit him like a fist. This one only eased him down. By the time he reached the arena, the tension was gone. And what walked into that locker room was something else entirely. The cameras once caught what that calm turned into. Jordan in the locker room before a playoff game, a lit cigar clamped in his teeth, swinging a baseball bat, loose and lethal at the same time. That is the first thing the cigars gave him. Not a buzz, not a flex. Control. The single hardest thing for the most intense competitor alive to find. And he found it in a mild Cuban he smoked alone in traffic. But calming down was only half of it. The cigar he saved for the end of the night did the exact opposite, and it was strong enough to put him on the floor. Here is a problem nobody thinks about. The most relentless competitor who ever lived could not turn it off. The same fire that won 6 titles ran all night, every night. And a mind like that does not power down just because the buzzer sounded. The Montecristo Number Two was his off switch. It is one of the strongest cigars Cuba makes. A full-bodied pyramid that hits with pepper and dark earth and only gets heavier as it burns. He told the man who interviewed him that these were so strong he would not even light one on an empty stomach. So he ate first, then smoked, because this cigar took everything he had left. That was the point. Where the Hoyo eased him up before a game, the Montecristo finally shut him down after one. He smoked one straight through the most famous cigar interview of his life, talking until it was gone and the day was over. The mild cigar got him ready to compete. This one gave him permission to stop. But the next cigar gave him something neither of those could. It was made for a dictator, and it is the reason all 7 were illegal in the first place. In 1962, the night before President Kennedy signed the law that made every Cuban cigar illegal in America, he sent an aide out to buy himself 1,200 of them first. Then he banned them for everyone else. That is how badly the most powerful men alive wanted what Michael Jordan smoked without a second thought. The Cohiba is the most forbidden cigar on earth. It was created in 1966 as the private cigar of Fidel Castro, rolled for the dictator alone, and handed out only as gifts to kings, kept from the public for 16 years. The Esplendido is its crown, a full-strength Churchill, and Jordan said it was the one heavy cigar he could always get to the end of. A president stockpiled these in secret. Jordan smoked his down to the band and never blinked, because the rules other people lived by never applied to him, on the court or in his humidor. He smoked the dictator's own cigar in a country that outlawed it and dared anyone to say a word. And then his mother told him to put it down. When the cameras were rolling for The Last Dance, Jordan sat with a Cohiba beside him, and Dolores Jordan let it be known she did not want her son smoking on camera. The cigar was gone the next day. He broke the law of 2 countries without flinching, but he would not cross his mom. But the next cigar was no statement at all. It was the one he reached for 6 times a day, on the most ordinary afternoon of his life. By the time the championships were behind him, Jordan was smoking 6 cigars a day. 6. You cannot do that with a 2-hour double Corona, and you would not survive it on a Montecristo. You need a workhorse. And the Partagas Serie No. 4 is the most famous workhorse in the world. A short, thick Robusto, all cocoa and roasted coffee. Everything a much bigger cigar gives you packed into under an hour. Jordan said it himself. When he is in a rush, he reaches for a Robusto. And these days, the man is almost always on a golf course, because he built his own. He plays 36 holes at a stretch on the Grove 23, his private course in Florida, a cigar burning the entire round. A portable humidor riding along like another club in the bag. That is where most of the 6 a day disappear. Between tee boxes, on a course he owns, smoking tobacco his country still bans. The ritual was never an occasion he saved for big nights. It was a discipline he ran every every few hours, because the man does not know how to do anything halfway. You chase a good feeling once and let it go. Jordan built a machine to hand it to himself on demand, 6 times a day for 30 years. And the very first one came before the sun was even up. The first cigar of the day came before almost anything else. On the morning of his big sit-down with Cigar Aficionado, Jordan had already smoked one before he reached the table, a Cohiba Siglo Two, the small one, a 5-inch Cuban that burns for 40 minutes. Where the Esplendido is a monument, the Siglo Two is quick and smooth and a little salty, gone before the morning is over, and it tells you the truth about the whole thing. The cigars did not sit at the edges of his day. They ran the entire clock, dawn to midnight, and every hour of it broke the same law. You crack a window and feel guilty smoking indoors. Jordan built a 28,000 square foot home in Florida with a theater engineered to swallow what one report called mass amounts of cigar smoke, and a walk-in humidor to keep the supply alive. He did not adjust his life around the habit. He built the house around it. This was never a reward he saved up for. It was the architecture of his day, and then the architecture of his home, control built into every hour and every room. And one name had been there since the very beginning, the brand that gave him his first cigar and never once left his rotation. Go back to the very first cigar, the Hoyo he smoked in the car before games. Decades later, still in his rotation, sat another from the exact same Cuban maker, the Hoyo Epicure Number Two. The same gentle brand built into a quick Robusto. The same soft vanilla and cream folded into under an hour. Here is what most people do the second they can afford anything on earth. They abandon the brand that got them started and climb the price ladder, because expensive has to mean better. Jordan is a billionaire many times over. He never left Hoyo. The brand that handed him his first taste of calm was still in his humidor decades, and a fortune later, because he had figured out the thing the marketing will never tell you. There was nothing to trade up to. It is the same instinct that made him impossible to beat. He found the thing that won, and he ran it into the ground, on the court and in his hand, for 30 years. And out of all of them, there was still one cigar he loved more than the rest. Year after year, the answer never changed, and it was not a single one of these. Partagas Lusitania. Out of every cigar he ever lit, this is the one Michael Jordan called his favorite, and he said it twice. Once in 2005 and again in 2017, 12 years apart, the same 2 words, his answer never moving an inch. So what does the favorite of a man who built his whole life around them actually taste like? It is a giant, a double Corona nearly 8 inches long, but where the Hoyo only soothed him, this one unfolds. Cedar first, then leather, then roasted nuts, a little orange peel, honey, and dark chocolate right at the end. A cigar that keeps changing the whole time it burns, so the smoke he set down was never the smoke he lit. The Hoyo was his calm. The Montecristo was his off switch. The Cohiba was his defiance. The Serie D was his discipline. The Lusitania was the one he loved, so if you take one thing from a man who hid an illegal habit in plain sight and never apologized for it, let it be this. It was never about the cigar. It was about owning one small piece of quiet before the moment that decides everything, and refusing to walk in without it. Jordan found his in something the law forbade. Whatever yours is, find it, and protect it the way he protected his. Tell me in the comments what your version of that cigar is, and subscribe.